Welcome to Friendeavor, the podcast, the weekly podcast where we explore the highs and lows of friendship with your hosts, Danielle and Kayla.
As we journey through life, our friendships often evolve and change, ebb and flow, and sometimes even come to an end. Danielle and I are lifelong advocates for the power of friendship, and we are here to guide all of us through the many challenges and joys that come with building and maintaining strong, meaningful connections with those around us.
Join us each week as we deep dive into the intricacies of friendship, from navigating conflicts to fostering new relationships and everything in between. With insightful interviews, personal anecdotes, and expert advice, Friendeavor is the perfect podcast for anyone looking to strengthen their bonds with the people they love.
So, whether you are on the go, taking care of chores, or just settling in, get ready to explore the world of friendship on Friendeavor, the podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Friendeavor. I'm your host, Danielle.
And I'm Kayla.
We
Hey.
are so thrilled that you have decided to come hang out with us, whether it be morning or evening or your lunch break that you have decided to spend with us. Whatever it may be, we are truly honored that you've taken the time to hang out with us today.
Yes, absolutely.
I personally just got off of an epic weekend with my friends. And we were on a boat, and I am literally still rocking.
Burnt.
I'm also burnt.
And rocking, yeah.
But I'm like vertigo, dizzy, like.
That happens to you when you get off boats.
It does. The
It's so
cruise,
funny.
I had to sleep it off for like a day and a half. It was wild. And I didn't have that luxury today because I had to work. So I'm like, so I'm not the only one who feels that way. All the rest of them are too, so yeah. I feel justified, but maybe it's because I've never spent a lot of time on water or something. Sorry for the interruption, everyone. You may have just heard some knocking. We had an unexpected guest.
Pleasant surprise
for you. I'm like, hello, we're in the middle of something. What was I saying? Oh, maybe because I've never spent like a lot of time of my life on the water. I don't know if it's like an adaptability thing or something.
Oh, there you go.
So,
hey, we're talking about that today. Adaptability.
You know I was just about to throw it over to you, Kayla. What are we talking about today? This is
Yeah.
Kayla's episode, you guys.
Yes. Okay, so earlier on this week, I was in a conversation with someone, and they called someone else a chameleon. And I was like, I remember thinking, like, I don't think that person's a chameleon. I think they're just, and I was like trying to come up with the word in my head. I was like, they're just adaptable. I was like, they're adaptable. And then I texted Danielle and I was like, hey, have you ever done like a video? Because Danielle loves those analogies.
I do.
I was like, have you ever done like a video on a chameleon? And she said no. I was like, okay, so we should do a recording on the difference between being adaptable and being a chameleon. So
let's get into it.
Yeah. So I'm sure everyone knows what a chameleon is, but if you've never heard it used in like as a social term, it's basically used to describe a person who changes depending on who they're around. So just like a chameleon blends into their surroundings, this person will change their personality or compromise their values just to fit in. Okay, you've played the game Chameleon, right?
Is that the one that your sister brought?
Yeah, Creedon brought it. She's brought it a couple times.
Was it for girls' game night?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yes.
It's a super...
yes, I did. Because I was the okay, yes, I remember. I was the chameleon the very first time that I had ever played, and I was like, this is really hard for never having played this before.
That's so funny.
And I think I may have had to go first, actually. You know how you go around? I was like, it had to come up with the first word.
Oh my
And they like
word.
instantly knew. So yes, I do remember that game.
Okay. So basically, I'm the worst at describing games. Okay. But basically, this game, everyone's in on this secret.
It's a good group game.
Yes. Everyone's in on what the secret word is, except for the chameleon. The chameleon's not in on it because the process goes like that. And basically, everyone goes around in a circle and uses one word to describe the secret word. Well, if you're the chameleon, you don't know what the secret word is. So if you're lucky, there are a few people before you, and you can kind of guess what the secret word is. So you can like try to blend in and throw a random word out there. But sometimes it's obvious that you're the chameleon if there's only been one person before you, and like there's no way you can know.
So let's say that the phrase is like the Rockies, like the mountain range. Okay, let's say it was that. And one person said large, and another person said geography, and the other person said mountain, the chameleon might say ocean, because they think that they're talking about geographical features or something like that. So then the person who's guessing is like, wait, hold on, ocean doesn't have anything to do with those other things. I think that you're the person who's lying.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes you the chameleon, is because you're trying to blend in with something that you don't know about.
Right. Exactly. You are trying to pretend to be something else and trying to pretend to engage in this conversation that you know nothing about.
Yeah.
So that's the game. But it's like, it's so funny that they named it chameleon because it's perfect. It describes a chameleon perfectly. You're trying to change yourself just to fit in. So, but that's not to be confused with being adaptable. So being adaptable is able to adjust to new surroundings. And I looked up the actual dictionary definition for adjust. Adjust is to alter or move something slightly in order to achieve the desired fit, appearance, or result. So when you're adaptable,
the keyword is slightly.
Slightly,
Is that,
right?
Okay.
Yeah. When you're adaptable, you adjust your behavior or your communication style or your just general approach to better fit the situation or group. Okay, so you're not changing yourself, you're not changing your opinions, you're changing your approach.
Okay.
Because sometimes it's your natural approach is probably inappropriate in some settings. But you still retain your core values and your beliefs and your personality. So, for example, you might tone down your humor in a formal setting, but still express your genuine thoughts.
Yeah.
You want to be adaptable when you're in a situation that it just requires you to temporarily adjust some of your behaviors or the way you may normally do things because you can make things awkward.
Yeah.
Or cause conflict, or whatever
the
the case may be.
Your audience, right? Like,
Right.
So the balance of having, maybe like I'll use what you said, humor. If you know that you're in a very stuffy group of people, you probably, I'm guessing, don't want to come in with this slapstick, goofiness. That doesn't mean you don't have to stop being a goofy individual, like if that's like your personality, but know your audience.
Exactly. Right. So, but that being said, being a chameleon goes a step further because you're altering your identity. So chameleons might change their opinions or their interests or their personality to match those around them. Most of the time, this is to gain acceptance or avoid conflict. So when you're adaptable, you're trying to avoid conflict, but when you're adaptable, it doesn't necessarily mean you're trying to gain acceptance. Okay. That's not the goal. The goal is to avoid conflict or just not make things awkward or just not to be inappropriate.
Yeah.
So a lot of people miss this in their attempt not to be a chameleon. So they're like, well, I'm going to show them that I am who I am. So they're going to let their true colors show all the time, no matter what. They'll loudly and proudly proclaim their opinion or their stance, even if it's inappropriate in a particular setting. So they're letting everyone know that they're not trying to fit in. They do not care, girl.
Right. A+ reference for those of you who don't know.
That is reference.
That is an Anderson-ism right there. It stems from my grandfather. That is hilarious. A+.
Which, yes, you don't want to be a chameleon, okay? You don't want to alter your identity or your personality or your core values to match the group or gain acceptance. But, so some people in recognition of that, take it further and they forget about adaptability.
This makes me think of, if we take this concept and like twist it a little bit, which we do here, think of a person who becomes a chameleon, not just for acceptance, but to avoid a perceived conflict. I think of, it's sad, but like how kids who are adopted or put into foster care or whatever, they feel the need to change, to adapt, probably a survival skill. That's what they feel the need to do, change for their environment and become who the adults in the house want them to be because they want to be accepted. So it's the same thing. It's acceptance, but also change who you are so that there's no conflict with that parent or whatever, or that guardian. And so it could be a coping mechanism too, becoming a chameleon. And that's actually what a literal physical chameleon does, like you talked about.
It's a survival.
They go and to avoid predators, they literally change who they are. So, but we as humans have to shake the ideology of the idea of that there's someone always out to get you. There's always someone who's a predator. Like, the only ultimate enemy we have is the devil, who's literally, here to still kill and destroy. So as far as your human connections go, you don't have to have a guard up all the time about, oh no, I have to be whoever everyone wants me to be just to survive. Right. That's not what humanity is designed for.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of the people that I know that tend to be chameleons really don't have a sense of identity. And that's why when they're hopping from group to group, they just kind of conform to the ideals or beliefs of that group. And that looks like just always agreeing with everything. Never having your own values or your own opinions. Yeah. And that is not what it means to be adaptable. Being adaptable doesn't mean that you're blindly agreeing with everything the group does or says. But it means guarding your reactions or putting your reactions through a filter just to not cause unnecessary conflict. Right. So that doesn't mean if you're being attacked, you just, stay quiet or whatever. But just little things that, like, my voice does not matter in this, so I'm not going to cause unnecessary conflict.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Being a chameleon is like the opposite of being like colonization. If you think about it, a person who is colonizing would go to a group and specifically go there to bring their values, to bring their beliefs, to bring their banner and plant the flag and say, okay, I have now taken control of this group. This is who I am.
It's giving Charlie Kirk at the DNC.
That is so true. It's, that's like the colonizer mentality. But the chameleon mentality is, I'm going to go to this group and I'm going to hide behind them and I'm going to adapt to who they are because either you want something from them, something like protection, or, that's why a lot of kids join gangs. They don't grow up with a gang mentality of violence or whatever is there. They go looking for a sense of belonging, a sense of protection, a sense of, I need to be a part of something else because I don't know who I am. So the colonizer mentality is the complete opposite, and you shouldn't have that one either when it comes to friendship and connectivity, to go and impose your will on other people. But we've said since the beginning that everything in life is about balance. So if you can find that happy medium, that adaptability that works in your circle or other circles that you're a part of, I think that's when you're going to find that you're most at peace and you're most content in life. Right. You know of people, I would assume, I know people who it seems like they're just friends with everyone. And you're like, how on earth do you, there's one thing about being like friendly and just, fun to be around or whatever, but and a difference of like literally knowing so many people that you're like, how?
And being close to so many people,
or conceivably it seems that way, so many people. And then it makes you think, well, are they chameleon? No, because they're not like ashamed or they're not trying to get anything from you. Well, are they a colonizer mentality? No, because they're not trying to change anybody. They just are able to adapt so readily, whether through life circumstance or just being a people person, and that they can twist the kaleidoscope on their personality just enough, not to distort it, not to warp it, but to be able to connect with that person. So like to become relatable. And that's what you see a lot of politicians do, that in being fake, that they change their front to like, see, I grew up in struggle, when you're with people who are struggling. But then I went to an Ivy League school when I'm with my Ivy League people, because you have to change it so that you can be relatable. In that instance, to impose your will. That's a colonizer mentality of I want to become a senator or governor or president to put my stamp on this country or this whatever. So you see that, but when you see it outside of an obvious end game, because politics is a very obvious end game, but when you see it in like person-to-person interaction, you kind of wonder, why are they like that?
Yeah.
Why are they so relatable to people?
Right.
Is it just because they're that nice? Is it an insecurity thing that they have to have that many friends? Or is it literally just happenstance that they've happened to meet a lot of people in their life? Like, I think of my dad, he knows so many people and he's never met a stranger. So, but it was circumstance, it was his job that made him meet so many people, but it was his personality and kinsmanship that allowed him to retain that many friends.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good observation about like being relatable versus being a chameleon. Yeah. We can compare that to a lot of things. Being a chameleon versus being adaptable versus being relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a study in and of itself. So let me ask you this. If someone is, we're just throwing out a hypothetical here, and it's kind of convoluted, so stick with me here. And if you need clarification, let me know. Let's say you encounter a person who's seeking your advice, and they say, Kayla, I'm afraid that other people think I'm fake because I'm adaptable or I'm relatable. And they're struggling with it because it's like they're perceiving as a bad thing. Like, you don't want to be fake. You don't want to be inauthentic. Which, side note, we have a big episode coming up about that probably next week. I'm not sure. I think it falls on the schedule next week, but it's coming up. So, what would your advice be to that person if they're struggling with this aspect of their identity because it's a perception of what other people think of them?
That's so hard because there are so many layers to that. So, okay.
Yeah, it is layered. So take it step by step. If we need to go break it down, then we can.
Yeah, we might need to break it down because that has to do with like, do you think you're fake? And then you have to talk about like, why do we care what others think about us? Okay. First, I just want to be like, I want to relate to this a little bit because I have dealt with that before because I'm naturally like, I care deeply and I like to listen to people and I like to talk.
Well, and you come from a family that cares very deeply too. So do you think that would... Okay, let's just use you hypothetically, and then we'll start there. Let's say that you are afraid that people think you're fake. Now, we know this is not the case, but say that you were struggling with that. Yeah. What would you want someone to tell you?
Yeah. Well, that thought has crossed my mind before, and I even had a friend one time. She was just randomly videoing, and I was talking to someone just in passing, so they were walking by, and I was like smiling, and then I gave a little laugh, and literally I said a sentence to this person as we were walking past each other, okay? So I like gave a little laugh, and then when I wasn't talking to anyone anymore, my smile just went, okay. Like,
as one does. People expect you to just be smiling all the time.
Right.
Like, who are you, Dan Anderson?
Right. But I wasn't like being fake to that person. I didn't feel like frowning to that person. I felt like smiling to that person. Yeah. But then when they walked away, I wasn't talking to anyone anymore, so I stopped smiling. My friend was videoing, and she goes, I caught you being fake in 4K. I was like, I wasn't being fake. Like, and I could see how, like, if that video got posted, it totally looked like I was annoyed with that person and I was being fake. But I wasn't. Like, I just didn't have any reason to smile anymore. Right. Like, so, yeah, that comment really, I struggled with that for a little bit because I was like, am I fake? So I would say to that person, at least this is what I did, is examine your motives. Like, if you are nice and friendly with a person or a group to get something from them, and then you turn around and backstab them or gossip about them, or you don't reciprocate that friendship, then you might be fake. But I mean, like, if there are times when I'm sitting and like counseling a person in the youth group through something, and I'm at the church very late, and I come back and I tell my husband, oh my word, I'm so tired, that took so much out of my night. Like, I wouldn't see that as fake, because yes, I didn't necessarily want to do that, but that doesn't mean that I was like being fake in the moment.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you wouldn't have taken the time to do it. Like, it's
right.
Like it's just that's just how the cookie crumbled, you know, like,
right.
Well, take that analogy, for example. The cookie doesn't want to be crumbled, but hey, it needed to be an ice cream topping or something. Like, that's just how it happened. So that doesn't make you fake for not wanting it to happen, but like, that's just kind of how it worked out.
Yeah.
Are we ready for an Odyssey example?
Yes!
We need a sting for that, so I can be like, you know,
oh my word, yes.
You know, whenever because we have a lot of those. Have you noticed?
We do.
But
and
you know
VeggieTales.
It's so stinking relatable. So why would we not?
Perfect.
If you don't listen to Odyssey, first of all, why? And second of all, do it right now. In the episode Tales of a Small Town Thug, which is excellent, by the way. If this is your first time listening to Odyssey, don't start with that one because you won't understand where it's coming from, but supreme episode in my opinion. There is a former town bully of Odyssey, who was, when he was a kid, he moves away and he writes a book, like an article, about how janky the town of Odyssey is, and how, do you know this episode?
No.
Okay, you need to listen to it tonight. You actually do need to listen to it tonight. You guys listening don't, if you don't know this one. He writes a book, or it was like an article or a submission to a magazine or something like that. And he's calling out individuals of the town. He says that Whit wears pants from the 1950s. He says that Eugene is a know-it-all. He says that he changes their names slightly, but they're obvious, like,
oh my
Eugene Reltzner or something.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And then he says that Connie, who is perpetually single in the town of Odyssey, doesn't have anything going for it. Okay. And so they get Connie and Eugene get so mad. And Liz Horton, he also says that Liz is bossy, and she is just, she's just bossy.
That's funny.
So
kind of true.
Liz, Connie, and Eugene get really mad, and they're like, what the heck? What are we supposed to do? Like, he's out here lying about us, and we need people to know that this is not who they don't know how to react, right? So Connie ends up writing a rebuttal. She's going to write a book about the real Odyssey so people know how quaint and whatever it is. Eugene tries to 180 himself and become not a know-it-all and, like, changes his ways and tries to, like, throw himself into work where he gets no credit. Whit changes his pants, different style of pants, and Liz refuses to be the leader of their school group, the debate team.
Wow.
Whatever. This is a long explanation, but it's a good example.
I'm surprised Whit changes up.
I know,
because
right?
I'm like,
it even got to him a little bit. He wasn't being a little brat about it like the rest of them were, but it did get to him. Mm-hmm. And so, and all of them liked his new pants, by the way.
Yeah, that's funny.
And so Liz goes to Mr. Whitaker, who is just the goat, and she's like, well, I don't think that I'm bossy, but I don't know what to do now because whatever. And he's like, Liz, just because you are, some people might call bossy, means you have leadership skills, so you can't let someone else dictate. And she goes, well, then what do I do? He's like, well, there's 3 things you can do. You could do what Connie did and try to set the record straight of what you believe about yourself. You could do what Eugene did and try to seek out if there's any truth in that, see if there's a grain of truth. Because he asked Mr. Whitaker, he said, am I attention-seeking know-it-all? And he's like, well, if you sometimes ask for stuff that we don't ask you about, then yeah, you do that. And so Eugene is like, oh no, I am a know-it-all. Obviously, everyone knew that except for him. So he tries. That was his solution, was to 180 and try to be something he's not. And Whit said, and the third reason is, just ignore it. Like, just give it to God. But ultimately, Liz looks for the grain of truth and tries to channel her bossiness into leadership skills. So, saying all of that to come back to the point of, if you're afraid that people perceive you as fake, like Kayla said, examine yourself. Talk to mentors. Look to see if there's a grain of truth, because if you are presenting yourself as fake, well, is there something that you can tweak hey, is there something that you see in me that I'm not seeing? You know, is there something that I can do to be a better person? Like, I'm feeling this way. I don't know if this is just condemnation or if it's actual, like, something I need to work on. And there's never a problem in doing a self-eval, especially with people you trust.
Yeah.
So those are your options. Set the record straight. Change who you are without actually, you know, wanting to figure it out, or, you know, seeking a mentors, or just taking the criticism. Like, Whit just took it and changed his pants. Well, then by the end of the episode, he went back to his old pants because he's like, I don't listen to that guy. And everyone's like, yeah, he's got the old pants on. So you have different ways that you can examine yourself. So if you're worried about being a chameleon or being fake or whatever, we're really diving into next week's episode in this one. So we're going to have to recap all this for next week. But there's nothing wrong with doing a little bit of self-exploration to see if there's a way you can improve.
Right. Well, that Odyssey reference, like, came in clutch because
Odyssey always comes through. I'm telling you.
It does. It does. That, and I've had VeggieTales references on the show, so it just always comes through.
I was singing, "Oh, where's my hairbrush?" on the boat. My hair was water wild.
Oh, oh man. Yeah, so that's perfect because I feel like in that example, Liz at the end tried to, like, become adaptable because she channeled her leadership
what
into
someone perceived as being bossy.
Yes.
Yeah.
She handled it in a healthy way. And that's what my sisters are always saying about their daughters is, you know, I'm not going to try to destroy this, but I'm going to try to channel it in a positive direction because both of them can be so bossy. Yeah. So, yeah, she was trying to be adaptable, and Eugene, it sounds like, was trying to be a chameleon.
He absolutely was,
trying to become invisible, trying to not be seen. Which is perfect for what we're talking about. And it sounds like Connie was being, like you brought up, the colonizer, who it's like, okay, well, you gave your opinion, now I'm going to give my opinion, and everyone's going to hear it.
Yeah.
You know?
And she really wanted everyone to believe.
Yes, everyone will believe what I believe.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It goes in perfect because the whole point we're trying to drive home here is that adaptability isn't inherently bad. Adaptability means adjusting your behaviors to be appropriate for the setting that you find yourself in. And being a chameleon means you're literally changing yourself and being fake. Yeah. So
I actually, before we close out, I just thought of another example about adaptability versus chameleon. It's like when you go to a wedding. If your style every single day of your life is you wear white, and that's like your statement piece, you wear white. Everyone knows you wear white. When you're going to a wedding, just because that's what you do every single day doesn't mean that it's appropriate to go to a wedding and wear white in most instances. You know, you're adapting. You're not changing who you are. You're not saying, okay, fine, I'm going to wear black every single day for the rest of my life. You're just changing to fit the circumstance.
Exactly.
And I saw this, you know those Reddit threads you ever see? I'm not on Reddit, but I see screenshots of them on Instagram about how this bride was freaking out because she wanted her wedding to be a certain theme. It was a ridiculous theme. I'm not even going to go into what it was. And the mother-in-law was like, you know, I'm not really comfortable doing it to that level, but this is what I can do. And it was very much in line with it, but the bride was freaking out because she's like, you're not doing what I want and my special day, blah, 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 even though it was absurd and like almost against the mom's beliefs.
Oh,
you know?
Okay.
And so she's like, okay, well, I can't do that for you, but I can't change your values. I can't change my values.
Yes.
And she did, in this instance, it was okay to compromise a little bit, you know, but she's like, I'm not going to do to that level, but I can do this, which still fits and is still appropriate, whatever. And so the bride went on those Reddits, was like, you know, Reddit threads, and was like, am I the jerk for expecting my mother-in-law to do this, or blah, blah, blah. And so everyone was like, yeah, you're the jerk. Like, that is not okay for you to bully your mother-in-law. After she already made a concession, like, I know it's your day, but you can't, like, force people to go against who they are for
right.
that, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
if someone's it works in reverse as well. If someone's trying to force you to change who you are to fit in with their group, you shouldn't want to have anything to do with that group. I don't think.
Right. Yeah.
It's not.
Exactly.
You're not going to be successful in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, that wraps up this week's episode. Is this episode number 4, season 2?
Number 4, season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Chameleon. Great job, Kayla. Kayla brought this to me, and I hope you want to lead more of these. I would love that.
Oh.
And of course, if you guys have any thoughts, opinions, ideas, or comments, concerns, or questions, you can email us at friendeavorpodcast@gmail.com. That inbox is feeling a little bit lonely this season. So please reach out if you think of anything. Of course, you don't have to be a chameleon, or you don't have to be a colonizer and force your beliefs, but we are people who love to have a conversation about stuff. So
Absolutely.
We're always here for you guys. Reach out, and we're going to try to get some of those handy-dandy interviews scheduled with your guys' favorite, because she's skyrocketed up our listening list. We're trying to get Monique for this season for a very special, that's going to be borderline controversial
it's
episode.
It's going to be relatable, controversial,
so
all the
relatable.
things.
So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, thanks for hanging out with us.
Yes. We'll see you guys next week.
Next week. Have a good one. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Friendeavor the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed today's content, leave a review and share with a friend. You can find the show notes on our website, www.friendeavor.net, and in the description of this episode.
Friendship is a journey. It's an endeavor. We'll see you next time on Friendeavor.